For those of you that haven't watched this before, we do this every month. It's a project that's brought to you by Ignite Somerset. Ignite Somerset is a project that's managed by Somerset Film in Bridgewater at the Engine Room, and is funded by Arts Council England. And every month we have the Creative Network, which normally happens at the Engine Room, but obviously for obvious reasons over the past 6 months or so we've been doing these sessions as online sessions. And usually what we do is there's an interview with an artist, and we get to find out about their practice, and they show us examples of their work. Slightly different this month. Last month we got an insight into the work of Gill Bliss, who does really interesting moving image work, and we kind of scratched the surface of that idea of creating interactive moving images, and we thought it'd be a good idea, and there was some feedback after the Creative Network last month. It'd be great to get a little bit more of an insight into how an artist might go about creating interactive images. So this session is going to be a little bit more of a focus on that technical process of how you can create sound sensitive images that, when the volume in the room reaches a certain level, the image changes, or motion tracked images, and so on. So it's really going to be of interest, hopefully, to people who are theatre makers, installation artists, anybody who's working in a physical space, as opposed to, an artist making pictures that go in frames on a wall. But maybe it'll be of interest to them too, hopefully. So that's really what this session is going to mainly focus on. And we'll get straight into looking at Troikatronics Isadora as a means, which is an application for a computer, as a means of creating those environments. As I say, very much scratching the surface. And then we'll hear from Selina Keedwell, who's an artist, theatre maker, who we collaborated with over at Somerset Film last October, to create a piece of interactive theatre. Very basic and simple in its concept, but definitely it was driven by the actors and the drama and the stories, but Isadora, the application, also had a role to play. So just a little bit of a background on Somerset Film. I'll make myself a bit smaller so you can see the website. I've got Isadora in the background there. So just give me a moment to sort my screens out. So Somerset Film, I'm sure that probably everybody that's watching will probably be aware of the fact that we're based in Bridgewater at the Engine Room. But if you're tuning in for the first time, we have a base called the Engine Room in Bridgewater High Street. And if you visit somersetfilm.com, you can find out much more about the organisation. Here we've got a little game that was produced for the Quayside Festival. We've got different sections here, but in terms of the Creative Network and the Ignite Somerset project, you might be interested, if you're an artist, to apply for a free artist surgery session, or a free technical support session. There's equipment hire. We've got all kinds of really great microphones, DSLR equipment, lighting equipment. So if you want to make a film or just generally experiment with digital technology, then get in touch. If you're interested in a session, an Ignite Somerset artist session, then if you click on the Create tab, you can book one. If you're a Somerset-based artist, and this could be on anything really that has a connection with creativity and digital technology. So that might be about filmmaking, it might be about photography, it might be about games design, it could be anything. If we don't know much about your interest and what it is that you're trying to explore, we'll research it beforehand. And very often these Ignite Somerset sessions are as much about the conversation as anything else. So if you're interested in booking a session, do book one. If you've previously booked one, then get in touch with me, richard@somersetfilm.com, and we can probably book you in for another session. So those sessions, by the way, of course, tend to be online. They're all online at the moment. Get involved and get in touch if you want to get some develop your digital skills. So let's move the website out of the way and have a look at Isadora, the application Isadora. So this was developed by a creative technologist who was also a theatre maker and visual artist. And so it's got all of those ingredients in it. And hopefully, just scratching the surface on this session now, you'll get a sense of what can be achieved. This, hour that we've got together isn't really about learning everything about the software. It's just simply about understanding what its capabilities are. So to start with, let's just have a quick look at the interface. By the way, we've got access to this software at the engine room. It is an industry standard software, so it's the kind of software that you'd see used, in national theatres and national galleries. So we have access to it at the engine room. So the first port of call, if you want to take your experiments with Isadora further beyond this session, probably would be to get in touch, and we can arrange a session together. So the application works on Macs and on PCs, and over here I'm aware of the fact that watching this on YouTube or on Facebook, it might not be that legible. So whenever I select something, I'll say what it is that I'm selecting as well, and at least you'll hear what I'm selecting. But down here we have a list. You can probably see a very long list. I'll move my head out of the way. A very long list, and this kind of represents all of the functionality that you have within the software. A very long list of effects and patches and generators, all sorts of things, some of which we'll be touching on this afternoon. So that's where all your functionality lies. Here, this thing that I'm moving around here, this is your stage, if you like. It's your projector. It's the images that you're sending through a projector. It's your canvas, if you like. So this is what your artwork will look like when it appears within this screen. At the moment, I've got Isadora set up, so it's a kind of 4:3 aspect ratio. If I move this out of the way, this area here, big empty area, this is where you connect things together. It'll make sense in a moment when I show you how the interface works. But if you've got a video and you want to play it through a projector, you would make those connections happen here. Okay? And then over here on the right hand side, that's where all your assets are kept. So if you've made some videos, if you've got some still photographs or some graphics or some sounds, maybe some MP3s, then you literally just drag them into the software and they are all going to appear here. At the moment, I've got a few videos that I've dragged into Isadora. So I'm going to have a little play with those now, and you're going to be watching on, hopefully. Okay, so that's the interface. And what would normally happen if you connect this computer that I'm working on now to a projector, obviously the image that I see on my screen would be projected onto a screen. And this black square here, this is my canvas, my stage. This kind of represents the projected image, if you like. So if you were in a gallery space and you wanted to project an image onto a wall at the other end of the gallery, you'd maybe fix your projector in place and you'd have your rectangle projected, just a big square of light at the other end of the gallery. And I'm going to show you how you can use this application to fill this space with visuals. focusing very much on visuals this afternoon, not on audio, but there's some very powerful audio patches within Isadora as well. At the bottom here, you can see on the screen we've got different scenes, and I've got a few here that I'm going to use to demonstrate the software with. The interface, the first one, and my second scene is called playing video. I've got a keyboard sensor, projection mapping. I've got different scenes that I've created. So, you know, if you are a theatre maker, for example, and you had a performance that was in 4 parts, 4 chapters, you might have 4 scenes that you're going to play with. Okay, I'm going to click through to the first scene. Okay, so on your screen what you can see is me in the corner there, and you can see that now we're playing a video. Let's just get that video playing again. What I've got here is a movie player, and I've got a projector. Okay, and I've selected those 2 patches, and I'm going to call them patches for this session. If there's an object in the room, I'm going to call it a patch. So this patch is called a movie player. It's a very kind of generic patch within Isadora. And this is called a projector. Again, it's a very generic patch within Isadora. And I found those by simply typing in the top left-hand corner here the word movie. And as I type in the word movie, you can see that that long list that I had on the left-hand side has shrunk down to reveal only those patches with the word movie in them. So there's a movie player and there's an MTC movie locker. Okay, we're not going to look at that. We're just going to look at the movie player. And when you've got the movie player, you simply select it and you can drag it into your space. In preparing for this with you this afternoon, I've already set the movie player in place. It's there. So I can delete that one. Similarly, with the projector, if I remove the word movie from the search there and type in the word projector, I've not even finished typing projector yet, and it's come up with projector, 3D projector, and a couple of other things with the word projector in them. So there's a really quick way of navigating to the particular patch that you're looking for. Okay, let's go back to removing everything from the search. As I said earlier, you put your assets here. So I've got movie 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And in the movie player section here, I can scroll through the different movies. So it might be difficult to see on your live feed, but I can select the different movies that I've brought into Isadora. So there's another movie. It's actually the same movie, but a slightly smaller version. There's movie 5 that I've got playing here. Movie 4. They're all variations on a theme, as you can see. Movie 3. Movie 2. And movie 1. Similar to the first one. I'm going to go back to movie 7. I think what I'm trying to illustrate to you is that, you know, you might have 20, 30 or even 40 little video clips in your Isadora project, and you can play whichever one that you want to play. Within the movie player, I can, well, let's go to the projector first. With this projector, I can change the parameters, the settings, if you like, of this projector. So going back to that idea that I spoke about a moment ago of a projector in a gallery projecting onto an end wall, we might want the projector to be in a fixed location. It might be that maybe, you know, you're fortunate enough to be working for a gallery and they've got a beautiful projector mounted on the ceiling, projecting onto a wall, and everything's fixed. But you might need to move your images around on the screen. Obviously, you know, you're not going to be able to move the projector around. So with Isadora, what you can do is change the parameters of the projector on your desktop, on your computer. So I can change the horizontal position by moving a little lever here within Isadora and move the image left and right. Okay, I'll take it back to 0 so it goes back into the middle. I can move the vertical position. Let me just get it playing again. I can move the vertical position up and down. Okay, let's take it back to 0. I can change the width of my video to squash it. Okay, and I can also change the height of my video. So already, even though we've just got a movie player and a projector in our workspace, that's all we've got. We're able to move our video around and change the scale of it too. If I go to the zoom, I can zoom in and zoom out. Okay, I can zoom right in. Okay, and I can zoom right out so it completely disappears. Okay, I could have one very small image with a big black frame around it if I choose to have that. I'll take it back to 100%, which will bring it back to filling the screen. I can also change, there's a few other things here. I can also change the intensity, they call it, or think of it as opacity. So I can turn the opacity down so that it feels like it's fading away. And obviously I can turn it back up again. So in terms of the placement of your video, equally this might be a still image, but in terms of the placement of your still or moving image, left, right, up, down, scaling it and affecting the opacity is very easy to achieve. In the movie player patch, I can also change some of the parameters there. You've already seen that I can change the movie. In this case, I can go from movie 1 to movie 7. I can also make the movie player visible or not. I can switch it off and I can switch it on again. I can change the speed of my movie. So at the moment, my movie, it might just look like a green dot on your screen, but it's set to 1. That means that it's just playing at the normal speed. But I can speed the video up, set it to 2, and that's speeded the whole thing up. Similarly, of course, I can slow it down. So my dancer now is moving almost frame by frame. It's maybe 4 frames a second, or maybe even less, 2 frames a second. I'll take it back to 1. So we're just going at regular speed again. I can affect where the video plays from and how long the video is. So let's say you have a video that's a minute long, but you don't need the beginning bit and you don't need the end bit. You need to sort of top and tail it a little bit. Then you can choose to play your video a few frames in and to end a few frames in from the end. Okay. I can also, it's turning itself off, excuse me. I can also loop the video. What I've got at the moment is it's looped in such a way that you can probably see the playhead, a little yellow bar playing along. And when it gets to the end here, rather than going back to the beginning and playing again, it's set to something called palindrome, which means that it'll play forwards and then it'll play backwards. I quite like the look of this video playing backwards. I quite like the look of the rain image sort of going backwards. So that's another nice little feature. You can loop, you can just play from beginning to end, or you can play that palindrome effect. Okay, so I'm going to move on to my next scene, which is called keyboard sensor. Okay, looks a little bit more complicated, but actually it's much the same. I've got here a movie player and I've got a projector. Okay, but instead of, with my mouse interacting with the screen and switching videos on and off and changing the speed of the video using my mouse, I've made some little keyboard watchers. And this is the great thing about this application, Isadora. You're able to sort of create your own little interface, if you like, with your own computer. So to find a keyboard watcher, much like you need when you're finding a movie player, you'd simply type in the word keyboard and keyboard watcher pops up. So you can grab a keyboard watcher and pop it into your workspace. I'll get rid of that one because I've already got some set up here. And what I've done is attach these keyboard watchers to a trigger value. I don't want this to get too complicated, so I won't dwell on it too much. But it'd be great if you come away from this just understanding that this is possible, that we can use this visual programming environment to create, videos that fade, that re-emerge again, where we can change the scale, where we can pause them, change the speed of them using our keyboard. What we've got here is a keyboard watcher, and it's going into another little patch called a trigger value, and the value of that is 0 and 0 here. I'm saying this because you might not be able to see it on the live feed. And as I showed you, when the previous scene, I was able to change the speed of the video by going to speed and taking it to 0 makes it pause, makes it stop. Taking it to 1 makes it move at 100%. Changing it to 2 makes it move at 200%. So what I've got is, and basically what you do is, if I remove these digital cables, you basically drop a keyboard watcher in, drop a trigger value in. What this is saying is, when I click on 0 on my keyboard, the output from the keyboard watcher is going to be 0. And the trigger value here is going to be 0, and the output is going to be 0. What that means is that when I click 0 on my keyboard, I can make the video, the speed of the video, be at 0. This one is saying when I click 1 on my keyboard, the output at the other end is going to be 1. So I'll just click 1 now. You can see that the video is now moving. I've just pressed 1 on my keyboard. Here we've got a keyboard watcher with 2, a value of 2, and a trigger value here with an output of 2. When I hit 2 on my keyboard, the video moves twice as quickly. Okay. So it's essentially the same as the previous scene. We've got a movie player with a projector, but I've just added a few more patches here that enables me to press buttons on my keyboard to change the speed of this particular video. Okay. I'm going to hit 1. Sorry, I'm going to hit 1. So we're going back to the normal speed now. And just bear in mind that, what we're seeing in here is what will be projected on that gallery wall. Okay. Within Isadora, there's all sorts of visual effects, and I would always say to people to use visual effects sparingly. They can be a bit cheesy, but I'm going to use one now just to illustrate a point. And there's one that I'll show you that's called dots. It's an effect called dots that I often use when I'm illustrating how Isadora works. So this is the patch. It's called dots. To find it, as with all the patches, you type in the word dot, and I've got dots and a few other patches with the word dot in them, and the one I want is called dots. You just drag it in. I'll remove it for now. What I'm going to do is remove this cable that you can see here. So I'm going to delete it just by pressing delete on my keyboard. I'm going to get the dots patch, sometimes referred to as an actor. Sometimes these things are referred to as actors. And instead of going straight to the projector, my movie player is going to go via the dots effect. Okay, so the video looks the same, and that's because I haven't enabled the dots effect. Bypass, I don't know if you can see this on your live feed, but bypass is switched on. So if I switch bypass off, there we've got a dots effect. Okay, it's basically the video but made up of dots. Okay, obviously. What I can do is change the size of those dots, but we'll come on to that in a bit more detail. I can go to the dots patch or the dots actor, and I can turn them up. You can just about see that figure moving in the video, or I can turn it right down so we can quite clearly see that figure moving within the video. Let's leave it on about 3, I think. It's quite a nice look. This is really about looking at the keyboard watcher. So what I've got here is another keyboard watcher. If you recall, these ones were about the speed of the video. 0 makes it freeze. 1 makes it play at 100%. 2, pressing 2 on the keyboard, makes it play at 200%. This one, I've said that the keyboard watcher is looking for the operator, if you like, pressing the key D. D for dots. That makes sense to me. I'm going to try and trigger the dots effect. So I've got my keyboard watcher. I've dragged it in to the space. I've typed D here. The output is D. And what I've got here is another patch called toggle. Toggle is just an on and an off switch. So when I press D, I'm connecting it to toggle, to the trigger of toggle. So I'm able to turn toggle on and off. So if I hit the D key, I don't know whether you're seeing this on your live feed, but there's a word there that says off, on, off, on. So I've created an on and off switch with Isadora, and the on and off switch is the letter D. That makes sense to me because I'm actually going to attach it to the dots effect. So I'm going to draw a little cable and connect it to bypass, which is that thing that turns dots on and off. So now I can hit D, turn the effect on or off. That's off and that's on, obviously. So already I've got quite a lot of control over this video. I can press 0 and I can make it freeze, hopefully. I can press 1 and it'll go 100%. I can press 2 and it'll go at 200%. Okay. So next we're going to look at projection mapping. So projection mapping is a thing whereby you will have an image and you'll want to project it into a particular space. So the conventional kind of format is a projector with a screen at the end of the wall and you fill the screen. But let's say you've got a projector in the gallery and you've got some objects in the space and you want to project different images onto different objects within that space. Let's say, for example, you've got a room with one projector in it on the ceiling and I don't know, there's 4 cubes on the floor in the space and you want to project a different image on each of those cubes. You'd achieve that using something like Isadora. And let me just illustrate how that might work. I'll just turn off these. I'm not turning them off as such. I'm just removing the cable that connects the movie player to the projector. And in fact, let's get rid of these projectors. So what I've got here is a movie player playing movie number 7. And I've got another movie player also playing movie number 7. I'm going to type the word projector in as before. But this time I'm going to use what's called a 3D projector. So I've dropped that into my space. Now, 3D projector, when you saw that previous projector, what you saw was me being able to squash it, horizontally and vertically and move it left and right and zoom in and out. With the 3D projector, I can kind of work with perspective by rotating on an X and a Y axis. I'll illustrate it to you now. If I go to go to the Y rotation, I can spin this flat surface, make it appear to spin on a Y axis. Similarly, I can do the same with the X-axis. I can go that way. Okay, so you can probably guess what's going to happen here. When I get my movie and connect it to the projector, the same movie, as well as shrinking it, moving it left and right and up and down, I can also rotate it on a 3-dimensional axis. So I can go there, and I could also, as well as changing the X-axis, I could change the Y-axis. I can still do all of those other things like zooming in and out. Okay, so I'm able to quite accurately move my image around on the screen, but also kind of give it the feeling that it's moving within 3 dimensions, 3-dimensional space. Okay. So if you've got a particular piece of architecture within a room that you're trying to project onto, you can quite accurately map your image onto a particular detail within a room, or even on the outside of a building, if that's what you're doing. So what I'll do is I'll just move this one to there, and I'll move it into the corner here. You can have multiple projections happening all at the same time. So I'll get another 3D projector and bring it into the space. And maybe I'll have a different movie playing in this one. I'll connect it up in just the same way. We'll have this one playing in this one. I think what I'm going to do is zoom out so that the images aren't overlapping, and I'll move the image across here, and then I'll do that thing again of rotating it on an X and a Y axis. So I'll put that one there. Let's just get it going again. And I'll put that one, I don't know, there, like so. So we've not that keeps going off. We've not touched our projector, we've kept it in place, we've not moved our screen, but we're able to use this software to map images into different spaces within our kind of gallery space, our workspace. Just going to talk a little bit more about projection mapping. Obviously, you might have irregular shapes, curved spaces that you want, you might have, I don't know, a circular screen that you want to project onto. The beauty of this application is that you can arrive at the location and, whilst on location, you can change the way that image looks, the way it appears, and where it's actually mapped to. If, I don't know, you have an exhibition in a space for 3 weeks, and then it's a touring exhibition and you go somewhere else, you might need a day in the space mapping your exhibition, your interactive experience to that new space. So that you've got kind of a lot of curatorial control using this application. Let me just show you how I made this particular shape. I'll delete that projector and just show you how it works. Same thing, we've got the movie player playing movie number 7. I'm going to just get a regular projector and bring it into the space and connect the movie player to the projector in exactly the same way. So this is a regular projector, not a 3D projector. Just get it playing. If I double click on the projector, I get this little window saying you are about to create a projection mapping. Is that what you want to do? And I'm just going to press OK. That is what I want to do. What you get here is another window, okay, to play with. So what I'm going to do is just create a kind of an irregular shape. Click on this rectangle here. In fact, what I'm going to do is remove that rectangle. Just get the video playing again. And let me just quickly show you how this works. I've got these little kind of corners. There's probably a more technical name for them, but as I pull them in, look, I can change the shape of my stage, of my projection, if you like. So I've got a kind of a rhombus shape, I think it is, that I'm making here. So as you can imagine, if you're on location in a gallery space or in a theatre space, you want to project your image into a particular corner of the screen or of the stage or of the gallery, you can use these corners, I'm sure there's a better name for them than corners, to decide exactly where, top left, top right, bottom left and bottom right go. I can also rotate this shape and I can shrink it in and out as well. So this is really useful when it comes to projection mapping. I can even create new corners, for want of a better word. So by default you get 4 corners, but I can create new ones. So I'm pressing Alt on my keyboard and making new shapes. So you can create a bespoke and unique shape for your projection mapping. Okay, what we're seeing here is the whole thing, but what we're seeing here in this bigger window, in this one here, is, you know, what the audience will see, if you like. I can even create curved shapes. So if this little checkbox here that you might not be able to see the word next to it, it says curved. If I click on curved, you can see that now those corners have turned into rounded shapes, and I can manipulate those shapes to do exactly what I want them to do. Just get it looping again. You can still see it there. I can move these things around and create a unique shape. So I don't know, if you were wanting to project an image onto the end of a barrel, a round barrel, or into a cylinder or something like that, you can achieve that. You know, it's time consuming and it's highly creative. So you need to build that into your production time and into your workflow. You might need a day or even two at the location, you know, setting up your projector and mapping your image. Then again, you know, if you're a visual artist and you're used to hanging exhibitions, you might be in a gallery for 2 or 3 days hanging an exhibition. It's only the same sort of thing. So that's a little bit more of an insight into projection mapping. I'll close that off there now. And we've got this really quite bespoke shape happening here. Okay, I'm going to move on to the next scene that I've created for this demonstration. And this is all about live video. Now, you might be an artist who's interested in a lot of audience interaction, and you might be interested in, yes, playing video and playing images that you know you've shot with a camera or that you've designed on a computer. But you might also want that kind of liveness. You might want the audience to be able to see themselves in your work, in your exhibition. And you can achieve that by using a patch called, or an actor called, a video in watcher. If I type in the word video, you know, you can see what's happening here. Everything with the word video in appears. I've got video delay, video fader, video in watcher. Grab the video in watcher and bring it into the space. That's what I did earlier. And what I'm going to do is connect the video in watcher to a projector exactly the same way. So what this projector is looking for is a live feed video, a camera that's connected to the computer. And what Isadora is doing is sharing that image with the audience. Okay, so what you've just seen appear on your screen is a green square. That green square, if you notice behind me in the video that you're watching of me now, this one, there's a green wall behind me. Okay, and what you're seeing in that green square, you can see the side of my arm there, look, is a camera that I've just got to the side of this computer here that's focused on this green wall here. There you can see my hand. Okay, you can actually see my hand in both videos. There you go, that's proof that it's live. Okay, so you can also bring live video into your artwork. Incidentally, you can also combine live video with recorded video. You can really start to experiment with what might be live and what might be recorded and create something really interesting for your audience. There's a little bit of a setup involved when you're using the video in watcher. I won't go into too much detail, and you know, if you want to know more, book a session with me and we can talk it through in more detail. But within Isadora, you can go to the Inputs tab, to your live capture settings, and this window pops up. And hopefully you'll be seeing this on your live feed, that there's 4 channels. What that means is we can have up to 4 video inputs. So you could have 4 webcams attached to your computer each receiving a different live feed. So, you can be really creative with your projected image using Isadora. At one moment, it might be camera number 1 that's being seen by the audience, and then it might be camera number 2, camera number 3, and now camera number 4. Or it might be all of them simultaneously. Anyway, this one is set in channel 1 to pick up the camera that's just to my left. And also, incidentally, there's video input and there's also sound input. So, you can have up to 4 different sound inputs. So you might have 4 microphones in your gallery space, each picking up a different sound, okay, that can be played with within Isadora. So there's live capture settings that need to just be set up. It's not too complicated. So what we've got is video in watcher picking up an image of my hand, interestingly. And just to illustrate, some of the functionality of Isadora and how you can play with it creatively, let's just see what we can do with this image. First of all, just like with a recorded video, we can change the zoom and the X and the Y axis and the position within the projector. So let's make it 100% so it fills the screen, and let's make the horizontal position 0. It's based on the center point. 0 horizontal position, 0 vertical position puts your live feed or your video right in the middle. Similarly to the movie projector, I can zoom in and out. Okay, but let's put it onto 100. And what Isadora does is it treats live video in exactly the same way as it treats video recorded moments. So just going back to that thing of the dots effect, let's just put that dots effect in just to illustrate how it works. You patch it in. So we've got the video in watcher going into the dots effect. Let's just do that again. The dots effect goes into the projector. And there we've got my hand, but seen through that effect. Again, I can turn the dots up and I can turn the dots down using changing the dot size within the patch or within the dot actor, whatever you want to call it. So that's great. So we can treat live video in the same way that we treat recorded movies. I mentioned the sound level watcher a moment ago, and I'm going to use that right now. If I go back to my inputs, live input settings, you'll notice that hopefully you'll see on the screen, but if I clap my hands just where my mouse is there, you'll notice that there's an audio meter going up and down. And what Isadora is doing is it's using the built-in microphone on this computer to listen to sound and to listen to the volume of sound. The louder the volume, the higher that audio meter will get. Okay. And what I've got here is a sound level watcher. You find it in the same way. You put sound into your search and everything with the word sound in it pops up. And I've got one here. It's called already in my workspace called a sound level watcher, and it's listening for sound in channel 1. Okay, there's 4 channels, as I said earlier. So channel 1 is just the built-in microphone. So hopefully you'll see on the feed, but I'll tell you anyway, the output from the sound level watcher is going up and down, and it's going up and down based on the volume of my voice talking to you now. So if I was to connect the volume in this room where I'm sitting to the dot size of the dots actor, suddenly we've got an application that is sound sensitive. Okay, so you can see my hand, and as I speak it goes more dotty. Okay, so I'm illustrating I'm going to just bypass the dots effect so you can just see my hand again. So I'm illustrating the sound level watcher using the dots effect, which is a little bit of a tacky effect, but but you can use the sound level watcher to do all sorts of things. You might want to use the sound level watcher to affect the size of the live video the live feed video, or the position of the video, or the opacity of the video. Maybe the more noise that's in the room, the the more visible the image is. Maybe the quieter it is in the room, the less visible the image is. In fact, let's just try that. What I'll do, in fact, is disconnect the dots patch, just move it out of the way here, and I'll connect the video in watcher to my video. There it is, to my projector rather. And what I'll do is I'll get the output, the volume that's in this room, from the sound level watcher, and I'll attach it to the intensity or the opacity. Hopefully, the louder I get, the brighter the image will get. Let's see if it works. Okay. Yes, as I speak to you, my image of my hand is appearing as I speak, and it disappears when I don't speak. So that just kind of illustrates the point. I'll disconnect that, and I'll turn the intensity back to 100 so that you can see my hand again. There is a lot of effects in Isadora, and one that I quite like, and you watching this now, you're all creative people, you might be able to think of a purpose for this one. But there's a lovely little patch called Video Delay that I'll just show you now. What it does is it delays video. So it's the idea that you might have an installation, a video installation within a gallery that you've got the video by the entrance to the installation. So as people, your audience, move into the space, the video in watcher is picking that image up, and it's only when they're in the space that they see their image revealed on the screen. Let me just show you how it works. So the video delay patch is simply found by typing the word video in there, and video delay pops up. What I'm going to do is pop it in between the video in watcher and the projector. Now, this video that you're watching now is 60 frames, which is about 2 seconds behind the live action. So you can see me in the corner. I'm going to move my hand into this camera's field of view. You can see that it's 2 seconds behind. If I move my hand out, it'll disappear out of that screen 2 seconds later. It's still there. Look, my hands are here, but it's there. I could bring my head over there, and you can see my head there now. And as I pull my head away, lip sync is 2 seconds out. It's completely wild. Okay, that's 60 frames. It's about 2 seconds behind. Put my hand in again, but you can change that to be whatever you want it to be. Depending on, I suppose, the processor in your computer. You need a fairly powerful computer to run this software. And if you're running the video delay patch or actor, and it's a whole minute behind, I don't know, 2,000 frames behind the live action, then that's going to be a little bit more draining on the processor in the computer. Nevertheless, it's a really interesting effect, and you might find a use for it in your work. Who knows? I'll move it to the side. I'll put it out of the way there. Last month, when we did the Creative Network, we had an artist who was sharing with us all her kaleidoscopic images. There's a patch or an effect called Kaleidoscope. You find it just by typing the word kaleidoscope in there, or just Kale, and it'll just appear. And you can patch that in between the video in watcher and the projector. And at the moment, it's the divisions. Yeah, that's right. You can change the amount of divisions that appear within the kaleidoscope. So if I turn it up a bit, I can see that if I bring my hand into the shot, yeah, we're starting to see an image that's that's slightly strange appearing there. It's divided and the symmetry there. And when Gill Bliss was with us last month, she was showing us her kaleidoscopic images. This is the way of working with kaleidoscopic images in a live way. So let's turn the divisions right up. So we've got lots of divisions happening. We've got about 10 divisions happening here. And I'll bring my head into the shot and you can see my head, but as a kaleidoscope. Okay. Move my head around the shot. You're getting a strange kind of disembodied version of myself in the live stream there. So it's kind of interesting. There's my shirt sleeve look, which is quite effective as a kaleidoscope. Okay. You saw me changing the amount of segments in that kaleidoscope. You know, you might attach the sound level watcher that we've got here. I just illustrated it with the opacity, didn't I? So the image faded in and out. You could attach the sound level watcher to the amount of divisions in the kaleidoscope. So let's just see what happens if I do that. So now as I speak, we see many more divisions in the kaleidoscope as I make a noise. So suddenly this kaleidoscope is interactive. It interacts with sound. Lots and lots of potential there. Okay, incidentally, let's get rid of kaleidoscope for a moment. Pop it in the corner. This is a live video. You can see it happening right now. I'll zoom down and make it, you know, about 40%, let's say. So it's now much smaller, still the same video, and I'll move it over to the left, change the horizontal position. You can also have movies, recorded moments, and live video playing at the same time. And you do that, it's kind of intuitive in a way. You create another projector. So let's create another projector, pop it there, and let's combine that live video with some projected video. This is that movie that I was playing earlier. Its speed is set there. Let's play that one. So we've got a live video and we've got a recorded video, you know, and similarly, just like I've done with the live video, I can zoom out of this video and change the horizontal position, and we can have a scenario whereby we've got live video and recorded video happening on the screen at the same time. Okay. I'm not here to tell you about the creative possibilities. I'm hoping you're watching this and thinking, you know, you're in your own mind making connections, and you can see how you might be able to invent some incredible experience within a gallery using this application. Okay, so we've kind of looked at the sound sensor. I set this one up earlier, and I won't go into the detail of it, but you can also create a motion sensor within Isadora. So what we've got here is a video, same video. We've got a setup here that's made up of a few different actors and patches. Some of them aren't being used. Look, they're not connected to anything. I'll just pop that down there and that there. So what we've got here is a video that's playing in a projector, but we've also got some other patches. We've got a video. We've got a patch called Eyes and Freeze and an effects mixer and a video in watcher. And then ultimately we've got a projector. There's a few more things going on in this one. But essentially what I was trying to create when I put this together is something that senses motion, something that changes the image when motion changes in front of a screen, in front of a camera. So what I've got here is an effect called colorizer. Now the colorizer is just made up of red, green and blue, and much like in Photoshop you might add red, take blue away to change the color cast. The colorizer works in a similar way. But what I've done is I've set up a few little patches here so that the movement of the audience within the space will change the look of the video. And it's working through this eyes effect here. Now you can see we've got the live feed video here. What I'm hoping actually is that going to work. Just give me a moment. What I'm trying to achieve here is a thing whereby, it's not working for some reason, whereby when I move my hand, the color of the video changes. But it's not too happy at the moment. You might just have to trust me that these things can be created. Basically, we've got a little patch here that's sensing movement, and the idea is that it will change the colour of that video. It's struggling to work for some reason at the moment. I won't worry about it too much. I think I've got it working. I think I knew what I'd got wrong, and I might explain in a moment. Is it working? No, it's decided not to work again. It's kind of working, but not quite. Oh no, that is working, look. Okay. It's working after a fashion. Yeah. What was happening was I had the movie already playing in this projector, and this projector was placed on top of the movie where I was trying to change the colour of it. So effectively what we should have here is a scenario whereby I can move within the space and change, in theory, I can change the colour of the video. It's struggling to work at the moment. You just have to trust me that it does work. Okay, let's move on to another scene. This is a little scene that focuses on generators and what generators are. So let's just get a movie playing again. Bear with me a moment. I've just noticed there's all sorts of little things in this that might throw you. My movie's playing, but I can't see it, and it's because my intensity is set to 0. So let's just turn that back up again. There we go. So we're playing this movie through a movie player and a projector just in the same way. Now, a generator, it's something that happens over time. There's two that I brought into the space here. One is called a wave generator. One is called an envelope generator. The wave generator works like this. Hopefully you'll see it on the live stream here, that we've got a yellow playhead, and it's just going from 0 to 100 and back to 0 again. It's taking about, I don't know, 10 seconds to get from 0 to 100 and back to 0. We can change the speed of it. We can turn it to so it moves much more quickly. Hopefully you can see that scanning much more quickly. You can make it so it scans incredibly quickly. Let's go back to making it scan quite slowly. Put it there. It's taking about 10 seconds. So what this wave generator is doing, it's just constantly moving, and it's going from 0 to 100 and back to 0. So if we were to get this wave generator and attach it to the intensity of our movie, you'll notice that the video fades away and then it fades back in again. Gets to 100%, then it fades away again. Okay. All of the things that I've shown you previously, and including the motion sensor, if we can get it to work, you might have all of these tricks and playful sort of experiments within one space. Isadora should be able to cope with it all. The wave generator, similarly, you know, I might decide to attach it. Let's make sure intensity is back to 100. I might want to attach the wave generator to the zoom of the projector. So that's going bigger, really big, and then it'll go smaller again. Okay. So I hope what I'm doing here is illustrating how Isadora is this application whereby you can work with video and live video as well, to create an experience. It's unlike video editing, which is about getting all of your clips, putting them in a timeline, arranging them, and then exporting it. When you come to share that material in a cinema or in a gallery, you just press play, don't you? And that's it. It's got a beginning, middle, and end. With Isadora, it's different. In a way, it's more theatrical. You can work with a live scenario, okay? And you can work in different shapes and sized spaces, okay? I'm going to remove that cable because it's sending me a little bit dizzy. I'll send the zoom back to 100 so it more or less fills the space. Another kind of generator is called the envelope generator, and I'll just very briefly show you this. The envelope generator doesn't move unless you ask it, you trigger it. So if I trigger it, it starts to move, look. I could use a keyboard watcher, the keyboard watcher that I showed you earlier, to be the trigger. So I could use the keyboard watcher here, and I've set the keyboard watcher to look for the keystroke of A, pressing A. So I'm going to connect the keyboard watcher to the trigger of the envelope generator. Whenever I press A on my keyboard, the envelope generator gets triggered. And then that has an output. So, you know, at the moment that output is 0. Now it's 100. Now it's 60. And this has got 4 segments in it, but I can put as many segments in as I want. So let's say I attach the output of the envelope generator to the intensity of the projector. If I click A, it'll fade to 33%, to 0, to 100%, to 60%. So over time, you know, you might have somebody operating your artwork via a keyboard. Similarly, though, you know, this is a keyboard watcher. It could be a sound level watcher. It could be that when the volume in the room reaches a certain level, the envelope generator gets triggered. Okay. As I say, what I'm trying to do here is just illustrate its potential. You're not going to learn all of this in this afternoon. It's really just about understanding what Isadora's for and what it does. I've called this one a few effects. I won't go into this, I don't think, but if you're interested in what the effects are, book a session with me and we can look at what all these effects do. But essentially they're effects. They make the video look different. You've already seen the dots one. This is called posterize. There's the kaleidoscope. There's lots and lots. There's hundreds of different effects. I'm just going to finish off this demonstration of Isadora with this last one, which I've called green screen. It's quite handy that the wall behind me is green because I can demonstrate green screen, hopefully. So, you know, you'll probably be aware of what green screen is. Whenever you watch the weather report on the news, it's a weather reporter in front of a green screen with a virtual map behind them, but we just see them standing in front of a map. So that's achieved via green screen. And, you know, when we're making a film, very often we'll be working with a green screen. We might shoot some video of somebody performing in front of a green screen, and then we'll key into that green and we'll make it disappear. And we'll be able to put that performer in any environment. But what Isadora is great for, you know, it's great for live situations. So you might create an artwork in a gallery whereby you've got a projection of I don't know, the surface of the moon or something like that, an Earth, you know, in the far distance, and you might want your audience to walk into this gallery space and make it appear as though they're walking on the surface of the moon. Okay, it's quite a tacky idea, but you get the picture. So to achieve that, you use what's called a chroma key, and again, you just type in the word chroma up there, and it narrows it down to chroma key. I've already set this one up. I set it up earlier on in the day when the light in this room was a little bit different. So let's see if it still works. I'm going to send the video in watcher, the video of my hand, through the chroma key and connect the chroma key to the projector. And so now look, my video of my hand looks as though it's against the black background instead of the green background, but it's actually against the transparent background. So if I was to get a movie player and another projector in the space, I could project that image behind my hand. So there I've got my hand. That's a live feed, and it's pretty accurate actually. It's pretty good. And we've got that video playing in the background. Okay. As I said earlier, it's not for me to talk to you about what the creative potential of this is. That's for you to figure out for yourself. But just so that you know that you can use this application to create a live green screen, a live chroma key kind of effect. We've got a video going on in the background here, but it could be a still image, it could be whatever we want it to be. For example, within Isadora, there's a very simple patch or actor just called shapes. If I connect shapes to the projector, then I've just got a purple rectangle. Okay, I can change the color to a green one, but it's already green in the background anyway, so let's make it something different. A yellow background. Okay, and it's basically playing a yellow rectangle. That's all it's doing. I can change the scale of it, much like I can with video. Okay, so we've now got my hand against a yellow square. We can change how many facets this shape has got. At the moment it's got 4 facets, but within the shapes actor I can turn that up so it becomes a pentagon, an octagon, and so on, until it becomes a circle. Okay, so we might have a situation whereby we want people to appear on a green screen standing in this yellow sun, I don't know. And when they hit the exact middle of that yellow sun, they start to hear a sound perhaps. Okay, Isadora is this application whereby you can create these interactive spaces. We've scratched the surface, and unfortunately I couldn't get the motion sensor to work. Apologies for that. I think it is kind of working. As I move my hand, the idea is that it goes redder, and as I bring my hand back, it goes greener. Yeah, it's kind of working. Similarly, earlier on when I was experimenting with this, I attached it, rather than attaching it to the colorizer. Let's just have a quick experiment with perhaps with the kaleidoscope effect again, because it's quite dramatic. Let's get rid of the colorizer and attach the kaleidoscope. So this is a live video, but if I use the eyes effect, see if this works. Yeah, I think it should work. Sorry, I'm playing here. Let me just connect that to there so you can actually see my hand moving now. If I move my hand within the space, I should be able to affect how many divisions there are on that kaleidoscope. Yeah, that works really well. You can see my hand has also got an effect on it. As I move my hand to the right, it affects how many segments there are in that kaleidoscope. As I move my hand to my left, there's more segments within that kaleidoscope. So within a gallery setting, where your viewer positions themselves within the gallery could affect how many segments they see in a kaleidoscopic image, for example. That's working quite well. Of course, it's always really good to dress rehearse these things, and it might be that you create a wonderful exhibition, but forget that there might be more than one person in the gallery. So something like this, a motion sensor, is it's going to work with more than one person. It's going to be picking up two people. So that's going to impact on the kaleidoscope. So, you might be working on a visual arts project, creating a video installation, but as with theatre, it's a good idea to dress rehearse and tech rehearse your exhibition first. That scratches the surface of Isadora, very much scratches the surface. There's an enormous amount of potential here for creating interactive spaces and interactive exhibitions, and interactive theatre as well. It sits equally as well in the hands of theatre makers as it does visual artists, I think. Okay, so what we're going to do now is hear from Selina Keedwell. Selina worked with Ignite Somerset, and together we created a piece of interactive theatre. I actually spoke to Selina earlier on in the day. She wasn't able to make it this evening. So this is a recording of her, and it's about 20 minutes in duration, just so you're aware. And as we're chatting, we're kind of catching up with each other a little bit, and we talk particularly about her performance, the thing she was trying to create, and how Isadora played a very simple but fundamental part in the piece that she was trying to create. So we'll play that now, and then I'll catch you at the other end to say goodbye. Okay. Waffle on for ages, but Selina, if you want to just say who you are, and a quick introduction would be great.
Yeah, hi, I'm Selina Keedwell. I'm based in Taunton in Somerset in the southwest, and I am a theatre maker, practitioner, facilitator, and a performer. With a special interest in theatre for young adults. I actually have a background in physical theatre and an English degree. And so I'm very interested in language and capturing language, which is where verbatim theatre and specifically recorded delivery of verbatim theatre is kind of my bag, I suppose.
Okay, so verbatim theatre, I didn't know what that was before I met you. So just for the benefits of people watching this live stream, just tell us what verbatim theatre is, and also kind of connect it to the pack, the pack being the performance that you were producing.
Yeah, sure. So verbatim theatre is it's capturing people's words verbatim. As they say them, and then working with script writing in that way, and developing character in that way. My interest is in recorded delivery verbatim, so that is in that process the actor or the performer or the non-actor, whatever you want to call them, hears the words as they are spoken through headphones, and then they repeat exactly as they hear the content, repeat it exactly. So any pause, any utterance, any breath, a touch of accent, but sometimes that can sound a bit contrived, so that's not important. Pace, and the beauty of it is it's really hard to explain unless you're watching it. But the person and the honesty and the truth comes through in that method of delivery. Verbatim theatre doesn't use the headphones. A sort of straight verbatim doesn't always use the headphones, so that can be taking people's words and then scripting with that, and that kind of becomes more of a traditional performance there, or has the potential to, because actors might rehearse with that material. With recorded delivery, there is no rehearsal, so it's just there and then, and it is what it is. And if the performer misses words or doesn't keep up with the pace, then that's what it is on that performance. And that, again, from a director's perspective, is quite scary. I think from an audience perspective, it's really, really interesting, because we want that person to succeed, and so we instantly find a connection in getting behind them, because we don't want them to feel uncomfortable doing it. And then when they start to get into it, which they do, because there's kind of a live casting process, which is hard to explain, but once they start to get into it and we've chosen the right people for the right character, then the audience are behind them and they really tune into what's happening and what they're hearing, and they become really connected to the story as well as the process that the performer is involved in. So with the pack, which did you want me to talk about the pack a little bit, Rich?
Just to give a context.
So I didn't set out for the pack to be recorded delivery verbatim. The pack is a piece of work that is really close to my personal experiences, and it looks at ill mental health, and specifically young males' ill mental health and suicide. And it's based on a collection of stories and sharings and recordings following the death of Charlie Marks, who sadly took his life at the age of 18 following ill mental health. And so these real, honest, really gripping sharings of young males' connections with Charlie are so powerful, and what the power is in the honesty and the kind of delivery of what they're saying. And I fell upon recorded delivery verbatim as a technique and started to explore it with that material, and it's developed over years actually of work, and developing that into a narrative that's based around our understanding of ill mental health and the language around that.
Yeah, and it was, as you say, it's a powerful piece anyway, and that verbatim technique that you employ gives it a kind of edginess. I found we worked on it together, didn't we, at the Barn event at the Brew, the Take Arts kind of scratch performance event. And we had 20 or 25 or so people in the audience, I think, and we asked it was men that you were asking to perform, putting the headphones on, and I think that was the first time I'd sort of really seen verbatim and understood. And like you said, you have to see it to really understand its potential, don't you? I think.
And the pack, it's kind of like a game. I don't know if that's the right word for it, Rich. It's like, so the audience are in on it. The audience are with us. They're behind us, and it blurs the lines between performance and reality. So you're not quite sure what has been scripted, what's been worked on, and what's live and happening there and then. And that was the intention. So I like that idea of play and within the performance, because the material is obviously very, very heavy. So we have to find where the theatre is in that to make an audience listen in and invest in that experience. And the actual technique is shared live with the audience in what we're asking these actors, who until that day didn't even know they were going to be involved in it. We let the audience kind of, it's almost like a coaching, like we coach them through the technique, and the audience see all of that live, and then we watch them try and do the technique, and we kind of watch them being coached through the technique. So it's really kind of it's very immersive. I hope that was my intention, that it's an immersive experience.
So in terms of our collaboration together, I was able to, Somerset Film and Ignite Somerset was able to give you some support in terms of initially just setting up headphones and things. And I know that in one of the cupboards over at the engine room, we had a box with a silent disco kit in it. We used that, didn't we? So in terms of the technology, initially we figured that out, didn't we? I think it was that thing of having four sets of wireless headphones and a transmitter that was able to send the dialogue, the essentially the dialogue for the performance, into the ears of each of the performers, so that they could, in their own voice, vocalize that script.
Mm.
And it was interesting working together on it, because I think we were sort of constantly going through dress rehearsals, weren't we? Because I
Mm.
think we realised that, oh, hang on, how will each of the performers know that it's their character that
Yeah.
they're voicing? So, as with all theatre, I suppose you would say this, being a theatre maker, the dress rehearsal and the technical rehearsal is pretty important. And I always think with, this idea of creating interactive spaces, even if it's for a gallery setting, not necessarily for a theatre, it might feel more like a visual arts project as opposed to a theatre project, but it's still a really good idea to dress rehearse that, and think about how the audience are going to be interacting with the work.
Mm.
Because when you open the doors to the audience and they come in, you know, that's something you can't script in a way.
Mm.
You can't know how an audience is going to interact, where they're going to stand, how
Mm.
they might feel when there's an audience watching them, all of those things. So that was a big learning
Risky.
process for me.
Yeah.
Risky, yeah.
And the collaboration was fab. I think it wasn't just that we were dress rehearsing, we were writing. I was also writing, and we were clipping and editing clips, and looking at, you're almost rehearsing the performers that aren't there, and having to extend clips through Isadora. I don't know if you remember that we were
Yeah.
extending clips because we had to allow for somebody not picking up on their cue that was cued from a light that came from Isadora. So the whole process was a hypothetical directing, writing,
Mm,
rehearsing, teching in this room
mm,
with a screen, and allowing for everything to go horribly wrong. So
yeah.
also rehearsing a little bit of improvisation. Well, if this happens, then how would we cover it technically? So yeah, the whole thing, it's so risky,
Mm,
which is very different to how I've worked as
yeah.
a director previously. But that's also really exciting. I like that there's that huge element of risk, and you've got to kind of let go
Yeah.
to that. There was a lot that we could control technically,
Mm,
and content, obviously story is everything, and shape and all of that.
mm,
And we also shaped a lot of the material using Isadora as well, because when you put a slow fade, like a slow fade up on a visual through Isadora, creates a very different feeling and emotion for the audience, because we were the audience. So we were,
mm,
you especially, because you weren't as connected to the material as I was.
mm,
So um, we were then having to kind of still shape material a little bit then, because a visual or the pace of something technical will change the emotion that the audience will feel.
mm,
So
mm,
there was so much work going on in that room
mm.
before it went live.
It's interesting you saying we had an awful lot of control using the technology over the length of fades, and where a light might fall in the performance area and so on. But at the same time, there's the edginess and the risk factor that um, it's interactive theatre. The audience, it's not simply that the audience are sitting in an auditorium watching; they're actually on the stage as well, and there's the relationship between the performers, who are actually audience members, and the audience.
Mm.
So,
And you could, I mean, originally when I started on the pack,
mm,
I rehearsed. It's been through so much work with actors and non-actors. It's been through so much rehearsal, and it just never quite captured the rawness of the material.
mm,
Once it had been rehearsed 2, 3, 4 times, it started to become acted too much, and it kind of, that's its own thing.
mm,
And that wasn't what the pack I wanted the pack to be from a director's perspective. I mean, it was wonderful, and there were some really skilled people that I saw performing and working with, and
yeah.
that was fab. But for some crazy reason, I went, no, let's do this.
Yeah.
Let's take lots of chances and lots of risks and see what happens.
So we're about to look a little bit deeper into Isadora and the interface and how it works. And really, the idea of this is that the people watching um, might not necessarily learn all about Isadora because I think it's something that takes a long time. It's a very uh,
Mm.
in-depth application. And what's nice about the program is that it's not simply it's more than a means to an end in a way. When you're working with Photoshop or Final Cut Pro, for example, you're creating something. There's a sense in which when you're using Isadora, that's one ingredient, but then you've got the actual live event and the audience to factor in as well.
Mm.
So when we were working together and that initial kind of bit of support was simply around wireless headphones, and we managed to get that working pretty well. We had a mixer, I remember, and I was trying to figure out, okay, which quarter-inch jack goes into which socket, and we eventually figured it out so that
Mm.
each of the performers would know when they were being cued and that they were verbatim going to vocalize that dialogue that they could hear in their ears. And there were
Mm.
other moments where there was dialogue actually coming out of the loudspeakers so the audience could hear. So but we figured that out, and then you wanted additional interactivity, didn't you, with the placement of chairs and
Mm.
beams of coloured light. Tell us a little bit
Mm.
what you were trying to achieve.
Yeah, so had we had more time, the visual element of verbatim is really important because it's so much direct address to an audience that can become very samey. And I've got a really short attention span, so I'm great for kind of knowing what an audience might think.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted the visual to support at times the oral, the what's coming through that the audience hear.
Mm-hmm.
Had we had more time, that would have been supported with imagery and moving footage, which Isadora is also capable of.
Mm-hmm.
We had limited time, and we were looking at how we use colour to support emotion and also to cue the actors. So we defined the spaces, and then we were using. So it has the potential to project onto blocks, and we didn't have blocks. I can't remember why we used the chairs. In an ideal situation, I wouldn't have used the chairs either. So in an ideal situation, with more time, the visual would have been projected onto a block or moved around the space to define location and to define sense of time and time passing. So rather than in your traditional theatre with all your set and your movable set and all that sort of stuff, Isadora has the potential to project that and to create that in a space. And what I really loved about it as well, thinking about taking this out to touring, was that is then can be well, you're the king of this, Rich. I haven't got a clue, but once you have the dimensions of a space, you
Yeah.
can project into that space. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Projection mapping. Yeah.
yeah, so it's a movable thing. So you could create the same performance in a very small room. We were in the studio, which is relatively small as far as a performance space, or in a big theatre space. So it has that versatility. And then we had the problem, didn't we, of we know that these actors are not going to rehearse at all, and actually they didn't know they were coming in and they were going to be on the stage. So how do they know when they need to speak? How do we know how to cue them? And so for that we used beams of light. I think we went with the primary colours, didn't we, just to keep it simple. And then we mapped out in the studio. Can't remember, you'll have to say how we moved from the studio. We got the dimensions of the Brewhouse Theatre studio, I think.
Yeah.
We mapped that out with mats in the
That's right.
the engine room.
We created we got some floor mats and we created a space that was, I don't know, exactly 4 meters square or something like that. And so we knew that
Yeah.
as long as our performance area had the capacity of a 4 meter square space, we could take it anywhere. But yeah, what we were doing was carefully placing chairs within that space
Mm.
and using the application to map quite accurately, well, very accurately, a particular beam of coloured light.
Which was the cue for the actor.
Correct.
And then that whole process, again, that was spoken through with the audience. So it probably doesn't sound anywhere near as exciting when we're trying to explain it like this, but it was all part of the script of the live piece. So they knew that when Joe Bloggs had the red light on him, that was his turn to hear, because the limitations of the silent disco set, as it wasn't a verbatim, Wizzy set, because we didn't have the money for that. The limitations that mean that all actors are hearing all of the material coming through their headphones, so they don't know which is their voice to speak. And so so Joe Bloggs knows when it's the red light that he is to then speak those words.
That's right. We kind of worked with it in a quite intuitive way, didn't we? Using the resources we had access to, um, to try and to help it make sense to those. And I think it worked fairly well. I think when we actually performed it, I think there might have been the odd person that was speaking when it perhaps should have been somebody else, but it all kind of worked out in the end. I think wasn't there a
I
happy
quite
accident
like that.
where two people were speaking at the same time and it actually worked really well?
Yeah. And that goes back to that element of risk, doesn't it? I quite like that. And the audience know that that's not what they're supposed to do, and so they get behind them on it, and it's fine. It's not like it's all going horribly wrong, and then it picks up, and actually, as the tech team, director, whatever, we can step in at any point and stop it and start it again, and go back through the Isadora keys. And so there's a lot of versatility alongside the risk.
Yeah. So we looked at the software. Really, it was an opportunity for us to sort of think about projection mapping. It was quite basic projection mapping, i.e., sending an image. In this case, it was just a beam of coloured light, red, yellow, blue, or perhaps green, perhaps. And we were needing to quite accurately fill a quarter of the performance area with that colour. So we used the software to enable us to do that. And these things weren't triggered by anything within the room other than me. I was triggering things by pressing a button on a keyboard, and all of so that projection mapping thing and that creating a keyboard watcher is something that we're about to have a look at with Isadora. But before we get into that, tell us what's happening with you now, Selina, and what you're hoping to do next.
Yeah, well, the idea was that the pack went out to young adult audiences and their families and mental health professionals, and then lockdown happened. Like for everybody, it's like, well, what do we do? And so I am now working on a project called Mothers in Lockdown Homeschooling. So I am a mum, and I've been homeschooling my children and running a department at the same time, and working freelance, and it's just been insane. So and I was really interested that there were a lot of things popping up on Facebook and social media about homeschool, with children looking really happy and lots of paintbrushes and creativity. And that wasn't my experience at home at all, with teens trying to get them out of bed, and the whole crazy relationship that we were thrown into. And so I wanted to find out the broad range of experiences that we were all having. And so I went out and interviewed people through lockdown, and that's my project that I'm working on next. So I've also been working with a group, been part of a group called Mothers Who Make, who is absolutely fantastic group that we've been meeting virtually through lockdown. So that's supporting mums. How do you work as an artist and be a mother at the same time?
Right.
And that's been really kind of integral to the development of the next piece as well, and raising the voice of mothers that are kind of struggling or having a whale of a time or whatever, but just putting that out there through recorded delivery verbatim. So that's the next stage. I've been commissioned by the Princess Theatre to do a visual arts piece. So I'm editing that into a very small, the audio into a very small segment to start with, and then the aim is that that goes out into developed into a theatre piece.
Fantastic. This is the Princess Theatre at Burnham-on-Sea.
And Burnham-on-Sea, yeah. Thank you, Princess Theatre.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So it sounds like you're really busy, which is great. And actually, maybe we could get you to talk about some of those projects when they start to develop and gain momentum. We'll chat again. Thank you so much, Selina. It's been really good to see you again. And
yeah, thanks, Rich. You too.
Yeah, and good luck through the rest of all this, and good luck with those projects and getting back to education.
Yeah. Cool. Thanks, Rich.
Thanks then.
Bye, everybody. Bye.
Okay. So it's back to me in real life. So that's been the Creative Network this month. I hope you've gained some insight into the application Isadora. Hopefully it's triggered ideas of what you might be able to do with it yourself. I think, really good starting point with this kind of experimentation is to chat to us, chat to me, chat to Ignite Somerset, book a session basically to just sort of talk the idea through. We're learning about this stuff all the time ourselves, and what makes these collaborations work really well is when a really creative person comes through the door with a really great idea, and they need some support with the technology. So book a session. And just to recap, if you visit somersetfilm.com and go to the Create tab, somersetfilm.com/create, you can book an artist surgery session there. Okay, well, thanks for joining us again, and we'll have another Creative Network next month. So see you then. Bye-bye.